supply chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended Podcast, and founder of the Blended Pledge. Now, we've got a really cool episode coming up for you. We've got Omar from Reform here to talk about automation, AI, with a little bit of digital shoplifting, and you might be wondering what that has to do with supply chain. Well, we're going to get into all of that on the show today. But of course, we can't do this show without our show sponsor, which is the Secret Society of Supply Chain. Now, this is our membership groups. We're also doing in-person events under the Secret Society of Supply Chain as well. We've got some free membership groups. We've got women in supply chain groups. We've also got some groups for marketing professionals in supply chain as well. So head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com, check it out, and sign up today. Now, before we get to Omar, we are going to talk a little bit about what's happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain right now. So we've got a brand new episode. It's episode 451, talking about cargo theft and how it's a $700+ million problem, and what can shippers and carriers do about it. Now, this is an episode you want to go and check out because cargo theft is becoming a bigger challenge. It's becoming a bigger topic, and we dive into everything you need to know about cargo theft. So go and check that out wherever you watch or listen to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast and learn more. I want to hear from you. If you guys are tuning into this show, please put in an emoji. Tell us where you're tuning in from, but I want to hear from you as we go through the show. And if you have any questions for us, let us know. Next, tomorrow, I'm going live at 11:30 a.m. with my co-host, MBK from Coupa, and our featured guest, which is Amanda Petraska. And we're going to be talking about solving the problem of change adoption. Now, this is tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. If you cannot make it live, still click the attend button. See the attend button? Oh, I don't have the attend button because I'm attending already. But click the attend button. We will send you the link after the show goes live. But I hope to see you there because remember, digital transformation technology is only 20%. 80% is the change adoption piece. So super, super important topic right now. And then on Friday, Eric Johnson goes live at 10 a.m. Eastern for TPM Today. Now, this is right before TPM happens next week, so you're not going to want to miss this. He's going to be talking about how tech is transforming container management. So click the attend button, even if you can't attend live, and we will send you the link to the recording. Now, we also have a brand new episode of the Blended Podcast. Now, this is episode 53, and it's talking about fighting workplace burnout. Now, if you're a supply chain professional, this has kind of been our lives over the last couple of years, and I've got a really great panel of people talking about workplace burnout, what your responsibility is, what the working environment responsibility is, leadership responsibility, and so much more. So go and check that out at blendedpledge.org. The link is in the comments as we speak. And last but not least, in-person events. I'm going to be at TPM March 2nd through 5th. So that's next week in Long Beach, California. Then I'm going to be at Break Bulk and Project Cargo alongside JOC April 24th and 25th in New Orleans. Hope to see you at both of those events. Home Delivery World happens May 21st and 22nd in Nashville, and we're going to be recording some podcasts on site there. All right. That was a lot to get to, but now it's time to bring up Omar. Omar, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for having me, Sarah. How are you?
Good. It's a little early for you. I think you're on the West Coast, right?
Yeah, close to 7 a.m. right now.
Well, I really appreciate you for joining us. I'm actually going to be going live for Thoughts and Coffee next week from California as well. So it's going to be a little bit early for me too, but I can't wait for that show. So why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, maybe a little bit about Reform.
Sounds great. My name is Omar, co-founder and CEO of Reform, born and raised in Jordan, went to school, to high school on the East Coast in Washington, D.C., went to school in New York, studied computer science and mechanical and aerospace engineering. Always loved to build things, so covered both bases, software and the hardware, and thought I'd figure it out later. Right out of school, I worked as a founding engineer at a startup based in New York. Worked on data aggregation from different marketplaces that handled alternative asset investing. It was pretty cool, essentially like buying shares in assets, like
Huh.
large assets, instead of buying the whole thing. Um, Built the product, grew the team. I was really interested in startups then, so I wanted to go to another startup. Ended up going to a Y Combinator startup that focused on crypto tax compliance. It was a crypto boom
Wow.
then; everyone was involved in crypto. Um, Same thing, a lot of data, and there I led the inception of a new products team where I was just speaking to people very often, validating opportunities, and just met a lot of people from a lot of different industries. One of which was actually logistics, and that was kind of the first time I was working with people from logistics and understanding some of the
Sucked
problems
you in. That's what
in the
happens
industry.
with supply chain and logistics. Like somebody gets a hold of you and like you're not leaving.
That's exactly right, and it was really interesting, honestly. So I wanted to start a company soon after that, and I just wanted to go after a foundational industry, one of which being supply chain. I just really wanted to focus on an area where I can drive a lot of impact, and there was kind of a few options. It was like logistics, healthcare, finance, and accounting. The last didn't really interest me. Healthcare kind of it's a lot tougher to break through, so I was like, let me kind of do some consulting work with some companies in logistics and see what I can learn. So I did a bit of that and started building one-off products. And then I realized that the problems overall, like the overall kind of problems and solutions that people are looking for are kind of the same. So I was like, let me try to productize that. Got a co-founder. My co-founder was actually a coworker of mine at CoinTracker, and we just started talking to people and understanding their problems. Focused on freight forwarders, and now we're building a workflow engine, if you will, an AI-driven workflow engine for freight operations. So most of the manual work that's being done at freight forwarders, customs brokers, can be automated on Reform using simple workflow automation, and it really feels like magic. It feels simple, but there's a lot of magic happening on the background to get the work done.
I
That's
love
a bit of
the word magic. I mean, kind of what we do in supply chain. Supply chain professionals are kind of superheroes. We kind of make magic happen and solve problems every single day. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Rob and Wendy over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us. And I appreciate that backstory, right? I was kind of wondering, and you and I had a chance to talk a little bit at Manifest, but we didn't really dig into your story. And we're going to be doing a podcast episode coming up. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more. But I appreciate you for sharing some of that backstory, what that's looked like, because I was kind of wondering, how did you get into supply chain logistics and sort of focus on the automation and AI piece? Now, we're going to get into that a little bit more later on in this particular episode. But before we go anywhere, I do want to talk about the poll of the week. So we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning. And Omar gave me this question last week. Where does your company stand on integrating AI into its operations? Now, this is an interesting question because we're going to be getting into some of the stats around, the percentage of companies that are looking to invest in AI. And I don't know if any of this kind of surprised you. We had just under 100 votes. 53% of you said already using AI, which I thought was really interesting. 53% is a very high percentage. Then 29% of you said looking for solutions, which is a really big percentage as well. And 5% said planning to adopt next year. What did you think of this poll? What did you think of the results of this poll? Talk to me about this, Omar.
Super interesting. I honestly thought it would be a bit higher. So the total comes out to 86%, either using, looking, or planning to use. There was a study in 2023 that was done, and it was 84% of logistics service providers are already using, currently piloting, or planning to use in the next few years. So I thought these numbers would have, which they did increase in 2 years, but I thought it would be closer to like 92%. This is super interesting. Very curious what the other is and what the concerns are, but I think a lot of it is really due to the fact that the technology is early, and some people want to give it really time to mature,
Mhm.
so they can actually roll it out into production workflows and operation. But it's still super interesting. AI, at least the generative AI, is still fresh. So the fact that 86% um,
Mhm.
of the respondents to this poll, at least, or in general, the studies that were done, more than 85% of companies are using or want to use, really says a lot about where the industry is headed, where the technology is headed, and it's no longer an option of like, should you? It's like you definitely have to use AI, but
Mhm.
it's a matter of what are you using AI for, and how are you going to roll that out in your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you haven't voted on the poll, we're going to put the link to the poll in the comments. Go ahead and click on your answer, or you can put your answer in the comments. I want to share it on the screen as well for those of you who are watching. I thought it was really interesting. 29% are looking into investing in AI, and we're going to get to some of those numbers in just a minute because some of those numbers are staggering, which come from our first article. But before we do that, I know you're going to be joining me at TPM next week. I know TPM is going to be a big highlight sort of what you're doing in conferences and trade shows, especially when you focus on freight forwarders, because all the freight forwarders are going to be at TPM next week. Talk to us about what you're doing at TPM. How can people come up and meet you and find you and all sorts of stuff?
Really excited for TPM. It's the first conference we're actually investing a lot of time and money into. The entire team is going to be there. We're going to be gold sponsors at TPM. We have a booth, booth B413. So please come visit us, check us out, check the product out. We're going to be showing a new product that we released. It's going to be a very cool demo. That too, the goal is to make it feel like magic, kind of like supply chain. You just ask for something and it happens. Um, and we're going to be showing how we can really automate in a very simple way tasks that are super complex, take up a lot of time in the business. A lot of people kind of work on these tasks, and we're going to show how a human is really an essential part of building these right automations and these workflows, for them to both come together. And we'll talk about it later, kind of in the conversation. We're going to show how a human is just a very essential part of this workflow, and how the actual end user is the one that is in control here, uh,
Mm.
connecting these different systems together and automating these workflows. Yeah, couldn't. There's so much I want to say about TPM that I'm kind of that I'm not sure kind of what to pick. But it's gonna be my first time in Long Beach as well. Excited to see kind of the port. Excited to meet
Mhm.
some industry professionals
You got to
there.
go do the port tour.
I did
Oh,
sign
you
up
have
for the.
done it. Oh, you did sign up for it. Awesome. Yeah, that's actually one of the highlights. I've done it a couple of times. I've done it over the last couple of years. And the port tour is quite interesting because you've got Long Beach, you've got the Port of LA there as well. So I'm excited to see you in Long Beach, see you at TPM, see what Reform's going to be doing there. But also excited for, everyone to go and meet you and learn a little bit more about Reform. All right, let's get into our first article. So, the first article is really a report by McKinsey. Now, this came out in January and it talks about empowering people to unlock AI's fullest potential. They're talking about how most companies are investing in AI at the moment. I think it's a 92% over 3 years plan to invest in AI. So when we were talking about the results of the poll, I think that's kind of what you were getting at, is the fact that like 92% over the next 3 years. But I think since we were at 86%, we were not too far off. And if that's going to grow over 3 years, I think we're about right on with those numbers, but only 1% of that 92% actually feel that they're at maturity. And at maturity actually means that they're fully integrated with AI. So 1% out of 92%. I mean, those are really, really big numbers. Talk to me about this. What did you think about this report? I've got a few other things to share, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Um, I really enjoyed reading this report. I think it really addressed some of the most important points when it comes to companies adopting AI, and a very interesting section and a real one was the reason why it's only at 1% maturity. Um, and the first one was the fact that it's super hard to align leadership. Uh, the first kind of step in doing so and adopting it is aligning leadership, and it's tough for everyone to kind of be on the same page and really be willing to invest a lot of time in making AI work and roll it out
Mhm.
to the entire operation. And then right after that, they talk about the cost and like cost structures with AI are really changing. Things are usually like seat based, but with AI, there's a lot of like tokens and usage based, and getting the buy-in and just getting them to initially cross that first bridge is a challenge. And I do understand why it's kind of at 1% maturity, but the article really talks about how things are going to change and the things that people should keep in mind to actually get that number higher. And I do see that changing over the next year or two, and these numbers really bumping up. Super agency was a super interesting one. I love that you have the fold on this. Excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So, a couple of other really interesting stats that I want to point out on this. $4.4 trillion is the long-term AI opportunity. So, a lot of people are like, we're still talking about it. We're talking about it a lot. We're hearing about AI a lot. $4.4 trillion industry is why. That's how much that industry is worth and how much people are looking to invest in AI over the next couple of years. Now, you mentioned leaders. A really interesting stat from this is that they're saying that leaders are holding us back because they're not steering us fast enough and they might be thinking too small. So, if we're thinking about supply chain leaders, if we're thinking about adopting AI and bringing it into our supply chain teams, think about this a little bit. Are we adopting it fast enough? Obviously with due diligence, because you don't want to adopt the wrong the wrong solution to the processes and the challenges that you have. But are we thinking too small? Are we using AI on too small of a landscape where we should be thinking a little bit more broadly? But one quote from this particular article that I liked is that I feel like we're all on different sides of the fence when it comes to AI. And it says, what could possibly go right with our AI future? Right? Let's change the mindset around AI being that thing that we kind of have to do and
Right.
think about it of how it can help our future. How can it help the future of supply chain and logistics? How can it help the future of our supply chain teams and lift everybody up? Any final comments on this before we get to our next article?
This last point reminds me of a part of this article that mentions that people really focus on the 92 million jobs that are going to get lost or replaced by
Okay.
AI,
Yeah.
but they forget about the 170 million jobs that are going to be created and the opportunities that are going to be created there. So much opportunity to be driven. And to your point, speed really matters. I like an anecdote of like when you're going down a black diamond slope in skiing. Um, you're better off going fast to be safe. If you try to go really slow, you're probably not gonna be safe. Um, so sometimes it's better to embrace the speed and really just go after what you're going for and have ambitious goals to reach the outcome that you're looking for. Um,
Smart goals. Go
Smart
fast
goals,
smartly.
smartly, and safe.
But I like that analogy. There's a lot of people skiing right now because there's been a lot of snow on the East Coast. So I think a lot of people can resonate with that. So highly recommend you go and check out that report. Now we're going to get into another article, which is buy reform. And the reason why we chose this article is really because we're talking about automation, we're talking about AI, And sometimes I feel like we are using them interchangeably. And I feel like we do need to figure out what that difference is. If we have 92% that are looking to invest in AI, we really need to know what we're looking for, what we should be asking about, and what the difference is. So, talk to me about the difference. What is the difference between automation and AI?
High level difference is automation is just pre-configured logic that executes and takes certain actions when certain events happen. When this thing happens, do this other thing. When an email is received, send me a text message to that number. When a new folder is created in my system, issue an email to the customer saying, hey, we created this new document for you. AI is really cognitive. So it can think, it can make decisions, it can choose which path is better to go down. And there's a combination of these two where AI and automation come together to really automate workflows. It does the reasoning, it does make decisions, and it takes certain actions when certain events take place. It's a high level difference.
Well, and what you talk about in this particular article is that the combination of both of them is really where the magic happens. Now, I guess my biggest question is if we've got 92% of companies that are looking to invest into AI, are they investing in AI specifically? Are they investing in automation and AI? And if so, like where do we get started? How do we know if we need to start with automation or how do we know if we need to start with AI or talk to me about that because everybody's sort of wading through this and checking out the solutions, but where do people start and how do they get started?
Great question. Um, I guess I'll start with saying that a lot of the problems that companies in the industry are looking to solve and the autonomy that they're looking for
Mhm.
is really automations more so than AI.
Okay.
Um, yes, if we talk about a freight forwarder looking to automate their quoting process, their shipment creation process, um, and I guess we can keep it there for simplicity. AI is helpful when it comes to ingesting all this data from all these different systems, the emails, the documents, the phone calls. It takes a good amount of reasoning and understanding to actually go from this unstructured data to clean data in their transport management system. But once that's there, we're dealing with structured data. We know where certain data fields are in the system. We know exactly kind of what we're looking for. So from that point on, a lot of that work can just be like event-based automation. If a new row is added into the shipment, then we take certain action. Once it progresses into the next stage of the cycle, we send a confirmation email to the customer. We can draw analytics based on that. And none of that really is super AI heavy. AI could be used on the background, like at a software company to help speed these things up. But a lot of it past the ingestion is really automation. And your question about how can we actually think about that and get started with AI, I think a great first point is to think about the workflows that are super repetitive, that there's a lot of people currently allocated to doing that task. And it's just been happening over and over and over again
Mhm.
over the past couple of years. Even if there's part of it that's very complex and requires kind of intelligence and decision making, AI and automation can come together to handle that workflow. Any exceptions that need to be handled get flagged to the operator for
Yeah.
human review, and it moves forward. And there's a lot of these. So that's really where the AI, automation, and human come together to
Yeah.
hopefully get that 1% rollout higher up
I
and really.
When I was in logistics, I remember updating each client under each file as to where the container was. And so I totally could have used that back then because I'll tell you that took like my whole morning between the phone calls and the typing in and then you spelt it wrong and anyways, that was a whole
It's a
deal.
perfect one to
But
automate.
I have a question from the audience. What's the perfect balance between automation and AI, or maybe AI and human element? Like you just talked about exceptions management. That's what I've been hearing a lot about when it comes to AI, automation, and the human element. What's the perfect balance?
Um, Great question. Um, I think that the perfect balance includes a bit of each of them, and when it's just getting rolled out, a lot more weight should be on the human
Hmm.
element. When you're just getting started with these workflows, especially if AI is involved, then it's super important for there to be reinforcement learning from the expert themselves. Like AI, yes, is programmed to kind of do that work and can do it really intelligently, but there's nothing like the expert that's done this for 20 years at the company and knows
Hmm.
that customer, and I know that other customer, I know where their folders are. So when you're first getting started, rule by exception is obviously important, but also a lot of times just approving every output from
Hmm.
that AI generates is really helpful for reinforcement learning, so AI can actually get better. Um, any corrections that need to be made can be made, and then the data would be approved. That would improve the AI and actually get the task done with really high accuracy. But then beyond that, I think it's close to equal. A third of the weight is on the human. A third is on AI to do the actual complex tasks, the reasoning, the decision making. And then the rest is workflows, just moving it between all the different systems that it needs to move to, communicating to the right parties. And over time, I think that the human element will kind of drop, and humans can actually just focus on creative tasks, focus on the
Strategic.
customer service, and
Yeah.
focus on kind of areas in the business that they generally don't have time to spend focused on.
Such a great point, and that was such a great question, and I appreciate you for answering that. Now, we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I do want to touch on our last article. So, our last article is about Gen Zers and millennials admit to digital shoplifting. So, digital shoplifting is when you claim a product was never received, but you actually received it, or you ask for a refund and then you keep the product. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with supply chains? Well, we've been talking a lot about cargo theft, fraud in supply chains. This is another example of fraud in supply chains. And one of the questions that I had for Omar is, how can automation and AI kind of help retailers who are our customers in supply chains and who have supply chain teams and supply chains? How can automation and AI sort of help alleviate this? Because this is costing retailers a lot of money, and that money could be then invested into technology like AI and automation.
Um, I think AI is really good at like proactive measures. This is a tough one to address reactively because most of these people are actually getting their money back, and reactively, once it's actually done, most of these retailers are just better off giving the money back than spending more kind of time um, trying to not issue a refund. So I think two ways. It's one is background checks. It's really easy for AI to do pattern matching and identify patterns given a certain customer.
Huh.
It's like
Interesting.
this individual has done it X number of times for items of X
Mhm.
plus dollar value. So identifying patterns and really flagging accounts that have done this or feel like there's a high chance of that account actually doing it. Two, I'd say, is like shipping guarantees. With automation and AI, if we put these together, then we can actually speed up a lot of a lot of the work that's being done to get that item to that individual and estimate very accurately how long these things are going to take. So if you order this thing and it arrives within the next 2 days, it's guaranteed shipping. There's no refund within the next 2 days, and that could eliminate kind of a lot of the reasons why people are asking for their money back. Hey, this is a day late,
Right.
um, and some of these reasons. So I think both of them actually predicting and flagging accounts that have a chance of doing that, and then two, setting some guarantees and actual shipping timeline guarantees with like no refund if made by the deadline. I think both of these could help
That is a great point, because in this article it talks about delays. Well, that's it for us here at Thoughts and Coffee. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in today and asked a question. I will be back here next Tuesday live from Long Beach. Omar, thank you so much for joining me today and talking to us about automation, AI, and reform.